So the premise of my presentation today is to talk about the people behind making technology work. So we have great platforms and programs like Salesforce or Inside Sales, but at the end of the day, they're managed by people, right? So if you've got inside salespeople, if you have outside salespeople, and they can't connect or they can't engage with their customers, it doesn't matter what platform you have. It doesn't matter what underlying technology you have. So I'm going to have a little fun today talking about how to get your customers or your prospects to respond to you and to respond to your messages. Okay, technology. Ooh, it worked. All right, so we hear all the time all the number of calls people have to make and how do I get prospects to call me back, or how many calls do I have to make, and how do I make this work? And really, prospecting is really the first sale in the big sale, right? If you look at prospecting or getting somebody on the phone as an actual sale itself and getting them to say yes, then just like a big sale, what do you need? You need value, right? It's an exchange, right? There's a relationship that says, I will give you what in exchange. What will I give you? What are you asking for when you call a prospect? What are you asking for? Perfect. I'll give you my time for what? What am I getting? What am I getting? If you can't give me anything for that simple exchange, that sale, I'm not going to give up my time. So if you go into this thinking and understanding that it's about an exchange, in consideration for your time, I'll give you something else that's valuable to you, you'll increase that. So what I'm going to talk about is the science behind that first interaction that makes that work. So I love this. Of course I'm listening. I'm intrigued by your story that is completely irrelevant to my life. And that is your typical prospect, right? I get this stuff all the time. I know everybody does here. Some email or some telephone call from somebody talking about, hey, I'd love 5 minutes of your time. Give me to tell you about my product. Last I checked, I'm a pretty philanthropic guy, but I am not wasting time. I'm not giving you my time, which is money, so you can tell me about you, right? So when we understand that, then the key here, and that's why I put this up here, is intrigued. The best way to get them to see value is to spark them with intrigue. You have to intrigue them enough to say, okay, I'll give you the 2 minutes to tell me why I need to give you more and what I'm going to get for that time, right? It's the first sale allows you to set up or tee up the sale. You have to be able to be intriguing to people. So how do you be intriguing? Well, there's actually a function in the brain called the oh shit circuit. And that's honest to God truth. Its real name is called the anterior cingulate cortex. And scientists or psychologists call it the oh shit circuit. And the reason it's called the oh shit circuit is it is designed to pick up changes in pattern. So you want me to pause, wait? Or? Okay, so the way our mind works is, here's a perfect example. I love Dreamforce. There is so many things going on around us. People, lights, displays, noise, music, that our minds could never, ever process it all. So what our mind is brilliant at is setting patterns. It takes all the information in and it puts it in a little box, and it puts it in a little box, says this is a pattern, I know what to expect, now march on. So I don't have to consciously deal with it, so I can move through the things that matter. What the oh shit circuit is designed to do is say, hey, that doesn't fit a pattern. So you take notice, right? It's the movement in the bedroom at night when the lights are off that's not supposed to happen. I need to pay attention, right? That's what the oh shit circuit's for, and that's what they call it. It's like, oh shit, what was that? Right? So knowing that's how the mind works, our job is to trigger the ACC. It's to trigger that and break the patterns of our customers' thinking. We break the pattern, they stop and can't help themselves but look and say, what is that? What was that? I need to know more. I want to understand. Okay? By default, I want more information. The bump in the night, that's not supposed to happen. Everybody's sleeping. Give me more information so I know what to do. Same thing here. So to do that, we have to trigger that AC, right? We have to trigger the oh shit circuit. We have to trigger the ACC and disrupt a pattern, okay? There are 3 ways to disrupt the pattern. I love that, by the way, brain trigger. There are 3 ways to do that. One is a knowledge gap. The knowledge gap says, I, as the salesperson, have more knowledge about a topic or subject than you do. And so by highlighting or illuminating that gap, it causes the person you're reaching out to say, wait, I didn't know that, or that's more than I know, or I was unaware, and I want to know why. I want to understand why I didn't know that, or I want to understand what I don't know because I feel I need to know. So the first way to trigger the ACC is when you send out an email or you make a phone call, have some level of knowledge that your client doesn't have. And this is where companies come in. Companies need to support their sales team in creating these. Really good salespeople, they'll figure it out, they'll know the industry, and they'll do the research, and they'll come up with these types of things on their own. But these types of learnings and insights, the bigger your sales organization gets, you can't rely on everybody to do it, right? You get your 80-20, the 20 is going to bring 80%. Some of them will do it, but the average salesperson is just not going to do it. So organizations need to provide as much information and data as they can to literally arm your salespeople with more knowledge than the people they're calling. If you have a sales team that doesn't know more than the people they're calling, either about the space or the use or the function of what it is they're selling, they won't be able to create a knowledge gap. So they're hosed. So that's the first way to trigger the ACC. The next way to trigger the ACC is through mystery. It's through telling a story but not finishing it at the end. Now, it's similar to the knowledge gap. It gets the person saying, well, what happens? What's the outcome? What's the end story? Where's this going? They're compelled to finish it with you. And so, same thing here when you have your sales team, creating stories that take the customer on a journey that doesn't lead to a logical conclusion or doesn't allow them to finish it. And then they're going to want to come back and say, what happened? Or how did that turn out? Or what was the impact? Right? So same thing here. Again, when our prospects get emails, when our prospects get phone calls, when our prospects are get stuff from people, they expect the norm. And when that expectation isn't met, they stop. They can't help it. It's built, it's hardwired. They stop and they pay attention and they focus. Whether it means they open an extra email, whether it means they take your call, whether it means they ask for more information, you've got them. And that's how you've got them triggered. You've triggered that part of their brain. Mystery is another way to do that. So think about creating stories, think about taking parts of your organization, think about industry trends, and try to play them out all the way to them, but don't give away the end of the story. And that will get them to say, well, what happens? Or what was the result, if you will, right? Then the next way to trigger the ACC circuit or the oh shit circuit is to surprise people. Now this one is a unique one because unlike a knowledge gap, it's really hard to have a bad knowledge gap or a corny knowledge gap because by definition, we're talking in the same context, right? So to say I know more about hippos when I'm selling this, there's a knowledge gap, but it's not in the right context, so you can't use it. Same thing with a mystery. I can create a clue mystery, but it's out of context, so I can't abuse that one. Surprise, though, can be abused. And you see people doing it. The cheesiest example was a long time ago when we all had resumes. Someone would send that resume on the bright yellow piece of paper, right? It surprised them. People say, oh, it was unique or creative. Not really. It just broke the pattern. White, 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 blue, pink, right? But it doesn't have any value. So the key here is when you're going to surprise a customer, you're going to leverage surprise to trip the ACC circuit. Make sure that it's in context and has value. So one of my favorite ways is to find stats that people didn't expect. You know, if you can find a piece of information or data or trend that is completely outside of what you would expect, that's a great way to create surprise. Another way to create surprise that is on the is on the bubble or the cusp is being creative. And if you can be creative in a surprising fashion, usually with humor, it's okay, but it's a one-trick pony. One of my favorite stories is Sales Loft. They had a whole database of names of people that weren't getting back to them, and those guys are just religious in how they work through their system. And they had this whole set of emails that people weren't getting back after multiple tries. So they took a picture or found a GIF of a guy being chased by a hippo, and then they sent an email that said, you have not gotten back to us after all these tries, so we can only assume one of three things. You're not interested, you're super busy, and we know it, or you're being chased by this hippo, and something like that. Either way, let us know. They got a 60% response rate. It surprised people. They didn't expect to be approached that way. So it was within the context. It wasn't a cheesy surprise, but it surprised them. And what did it do? It got a response, right? So really, to quickly recap, if you want to get a prospect to call you back, if you want to get a prospect's attention, the key is knowledge gap, know more than they do, and be able to deliver that in a way that they understand you know more and they want your knowledge. 2, to provide a mystery, to give them something to grab onto, but don't give them the ending. Or 3, surprise. Surprise them with something. Now, when I talked about this, I talked a little bit in the beginning. All of this is awesome. Really good salespeople will figure it out on their own. But to make this systematic, to really get this embedded into your organization, you have to commit to support the sales team with these tools or with this content or with this creativity. So if surprise is a route you want to take, leverage marketing to come up with a creative campaign that can be recycled. I shouldn't even say recycled. That can be used but then replaced, right? Once you use surprise once, it doesn't surprise me anymore, right? That AC circuit's tripped. It says, oh shit, what was that? Okay, I saw that, and it goes right into the pattern pile. And you will never trip it again, right? So if you're going to use surprise, leverage marketing to help you create constant, unique ways to surprise the customer. I personally think that's the least valuable of the 3, and I like to use it on a very ad hoc, like in a, for lack of a better word, desperate situation, like SalesLoft did. They had nothing to lose at that point in time, so that's a good time to use surprise. The next one is mystery. Work with marketing and the sales team to come up with stories and information and content that you can weave into a story that will get their attention. So again, leverage outside content or leverage marketing to do the research. That's a big piece. Research. Where is this data coming from? Where is this information coming from? Someone's got to go get it. So you can't expect a salesperson to do it because that's non-selling time. And we all know we do not want to reduce non-selling time, right? So, or reduce selling time. Yes. So you really need to support the organization in this. You can tell salespeople about this and they'll get creative for a little while. But if you want to make it systematic, if you want it to stick, it needs to come from another party to get the content, do the research, do studies. I'm a huge fan of studies. Look for unique things that are happening that people aren't picking up on. Get people looking forward for trends. Trends is an awesome way to do it because most people aren't looking that far ahead. So if you can create a knowledge gap of just knowing where things are going, that helps. Or how other organizations are leveraging. So one of my great place I like to find knowledge gaps in is in operations. In sales, we spend so much time on the selling piece, we forget that 9 out of 10 times what people sell has an operational effect. So when you can understand how it affects the operations that someone couldn't have anticipated or wouldn't have seen, or is a problem they may be having they don't know they're having, that's a way to create a knowledge gap. You know, are you aware that 27% of organizations in your situation have this problem and we know why? Maybe 10 of the people you send that to, they know about that problem. The other 10 is like, no, I didn't know that problem. And where do I find it? How do I do it, right? So that's the type of thing. Really go deep. It is nothing surface layer about this at all. And then support the sales team with the data and the information to trip the ACC and trip the oh shit circuit and get them to call you back. So that's it. I'm out.